Day 2 with no Oilers hockey. How we feeling? Let's get into it with the lead. Welcome into Oilers Nation every day. Tyler and Liam with you, as always, live on the Oilers Nation YouTube and coming to you live from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out online, sportscloset.ca. Maybe you're shifting into baseball mode like this guy. You want to get a nice Blue Jays jersey? You can do it at Sports Closet.
I think this is an old one though, right? You were saying?
Yeah, it's Majestic. They're Nike now.
Oh, what's this one?
Majestic.
Oh, I thought you were just saying like
no name on the back though, so it's timeless for you.
Yeah, I can wear it whenever, wherever, however.
Exactly. Anna is in the Oilers Nation YouTube with the first comment of the day. Was supposed to be a game day today. I woke up feeling a bit lost this morning, and yeah, today coulda, woulda, shoulda been Game 7 between the Oilers and Golden Knights, but we can't dwell on the past, can we, Liam?
Why not?
Okay.
36 shows to cover, Tyler.
36 shows to cover it. Today is locker room cleanout day for the Edmonton Oilers, though, so we will get into that. We'll be keeping our eyes peeled on Twitter. The Oilers Nation Twitter is going to be live tweeting a bunch of stuff. What are you expecting to hear today?
I'm expected to hear some of the injuries the players were going through, what they were hurt with, and just probably some guys being like, "Oh, I wasn't good enough." Yeah. I don't know. I never really know what to expect from these, right? Because I feel like a lot of them, they've had a couple of days to dwell on what happened and then just gather some thoughts. I don't think it'll be anything too pressing, to be honest.
No, I mean,
the obvious ones that we knew were Evander Kane.
We've heard broken finger, but we might get confirmation on that today.
Yeah, it didn't take a lot of morning skates. Zach Hyman did take that knee, and I think it was Game 3, and I think that plagued him for the rest of the time. Clem Shady blocked that shot, which I think hurt him a little bit too.
Maybe McDavid. Shady Costa had a broken toe.
Yes, and then also,
and it was from the game against Vegas. I think Game 2 he played. Where Scott Roney says our internet is sad that there's no hockey either. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Our internet's gonna be our internet. OP says, boys, the player interviews are starting now. Should have gone with a late start to the show. And Leon Draisaitl saying probably exactly what they said after the last game. It's disappointing. They'll look to build on it. Good teams got to go through this, blah, blah, blah. There'll be questions of the depth guys. I don't know. The only person I'm excited or interested to really hear today is Ken, because I want to know how they're with the internet. I believe Steve Staios at some point is going to be named the team's GM. All the reports line up with that. So when Ken Holland is asked at point blank today, what's his answer going to be?
I mean, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? He's not going to answer it straight up. I feel like this is going to be something that eventually they'll come down the line. There'll be a big announcement for these changes that are happening in the organization. Yeah. And I think Ken Holland has done a fantastic job with this team of getting them where they need to be. I think this year they ran into some obstacles that they couldn't really get around, right? Like, not just the stuff on the ice, but just maybe the injuries, like you said, and it just didn't really work out for them. But I think he put them in a promising position. And overall, like, when you look back at this season, there was one bad move in Jack Campbell, which still has a lot of runway to really get some life going in it, right? And you look back at his career overall in Edmonton as a general manager, and he really took this team from nothing to something. He got them to a Western Conference Finals. You know, we can always look back at the Anthony Ciu stuff and say, oh, how did that not work out? I was like, well, there was a pandemic in the middle of that, and it's a good excuse if you ask me. So,
but also, like, name me a GM in the NHL, and I'll name you 3 dumb moves they've made, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Tampa Bay gave up a handful of picks for Tanner Jeannot this year, and that's not exactly going well.
Yeah, exactly. There's that one. There's also that, like, what's his name in Boston? Don Sweeney took those 3 players in a row, and Jake DeBrusk was the best player that come out of it. He's been a fantastic NHLer, obviously, but there's a lot going on that could have been better. But yeah, you're right. Like, every single team goes through this, and overall, Ken Holland is, if you ask me, has brought a lot of life back into the city and the hockey department.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, when you look back at it, this is kind of exactly how the plan was supposed to go, right?
Yeah.
Ken Holland signed a 5-year deal. He is heading into year 5. There was really never an expectation that Ken Holland would sign a second deal as GM of the Oilers. So this is the final year. slowly transition things over. Staios has now spent a season with the Oilers, kind of learning things, and now it's an easy little bloop, give him a bit more power, and at the end of next season, maybe it's a new Poho if Holland leaves. Maybe he stays on as an advisor. We'll see what the structure ends up being. But like, this isn't like stunning. Like, this all makes sense the way they're going about this.
Yeah, the timeline is all adjusted very well. And I think, like you said, like Steve Staios comes in, has this season. Brad Holland has come in and taken a bigger role as well this past season. I feel like it's going to be those two. And you look at, what was it Frank said yesterday? Paul Coffey has a big role in this backroom staff as well, and like what he does. So like, the experience is still there. I think a lot of people are asking yesterday, like, what has Steve Staios kind of done in his career? And this is like obviously not a lot of NHL management experience. Played for a long time in the league, but Kyle Dubas didn't have a lot of experience either. And maybe that's a bad example because the Leafs haven't done great. But he's a good GM at the end of the day, and I think sometimes it is what it is. And I think Steve Staios, with his experience just overall, is good enough for me if it's in management or not.
Yeah, we got an interesting comment early in the show from our guy Pradneski, who said this team is going to look a lot different next year. And that kind of ties in to today's Sherwood Ford Giant offseason question, which is this, Liam. Again, day 2 post-elimination. What's the biggest reason we should be optimistic about this hockey club heading into next season? And I think there's a handful of reasons. I know there are people who will go with the glass half empty approach and say, hey, some players in the bottom 6 who won't be back next year. You had 100-point Nuge, almost 100-point Hyman. McDavid and Draisaitl are both borderline historic. A rookie goalie came out of nowhere and gave you quality minutes during the regular season. You could look at this as a glass half empty, but we're not doing that. We're going glass half full. Why should we be optimistic?
I think the blue lines got a lot of promise there. Like, obviously, bringing back Ekholm, Nurse, and Bouchard is great. And I think the goaltending is strong. I know Skinner wasn't fantastic, but I do believe that's the part that's kind of plagued the Oilers for a while now. And I think this experience is only going to help a guy like Stuart Skinner. So for me, my optimism is weirdly in the crease after what just happened.
Yeah, and I think so too. Like, we've seen the story of like guys struggling year 1 in a new market and then bouncing back in year 2. And Jack Campbell maybe doesn't have the track record to say, oh no, we're going to get like a 920 goalie next year out of this guy. I don't think we will, but I don't think we're getting another 880 season out of him, right? Like,
I don't think so either.
I think the goaltending is a good one. And just to, again, tie this into the comment we got from Pradneski saying this team's going to look different. I mean, let me rattle off the guys who are under contract or under team control for next season. McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Nuge, Kane, Yamo, Fogle, Holloway, McLeod, Costin, Nurse, Ekholm, Ceci, Kulak, Bouchard, Broberg, Desharnais, Niemelainen, Campbell, and Skinner. Those are the guys who, unless the Oilers actively decide to move away from them, are going to be back next year. The pieces you could potentially lose. Derek Ryan, although I wouldn't be surprised if he's back on a cheap deal. Matthias Janmark, I think we've probably seen the last of him in an Oilers jersey.
Me too.
Devin Shore, tough, because they love him. Is he back for league min and playing in Bakersfield to start the year? Potentially. And Bukestad, I right now I would bet on Bukestad not being an Oiler next year just because of the cap situation, but you never know.
I'm kind of with you on the Bukestad thing too. I would love to have him back, but what are you going to have to pay this guy, right? And also, let's not forget, Ryan McLeod did you a favor this summer. You're probably going to have to pay him a little bit more too. So, yeah, I think eventually you got to look to the future in a Ryan McLeod, and also, like, do you think that James Hamlin has any image on this team next season?
Well, like, maybe.
I'm just kind of thinking, like, your 13th forward is Devin Shore. Is it worth it, or do you want, like, a James Hamlin instead?
Yeah, I think there probably is something that's like, hey, give someone a shot, right?
Yeah.
Hamlin, I think, Bourgault, Holloway are both going to be in the conversation to make this hockey club next year. I think Raphael Lavoie is in the conversation to make this hockey club next year. Again, the reason I'm optimistic is because there won't be a lot of roster turnover. Like, at the end of last season, it was Keith and Smith both gone. And then, Evander Kane was heading towards unrestricted free agency, and there were some question marks around the team. Yeah, what were you, Chris Russell left, what were you going to do on the third pairing? And now you look and you got Desharnais and Broberg to handle that extra third pairing spot. And there's reasons to be optimistic just because of the continuity of this roster. A lot of players are coming back, and it's going to be a lot easier to build on things. So that's why I'm optimistic about this thing,
Yeah.
is just because a lot of key pieces are back. And the cap will go up $3 to $4 million, and you got some space, and you hopefully won't be screwing around in LTIR anymore, which means you have a chance to accrue cap space during the season. Like I said, basically once they got Ekholm, the Ekholm move propped the window up even more, because there's no reason to think he won't be effective next year and the year after. And you got Draisaitl next year after, then you'll deal with that. All these guys who are still under contract and still impactful players, and I'm not sure how many of them, aside from maybe Nuge, are going to take massive steps back next year.
I have a question for you then. So obviously the speculation is around guys like Yamamoto and CC. Those are kind of the two guys who need to be moved, supposedly. Like, which one of those guys would you rather, not rather leave, but seem necessary to leave more than the other?
I think you honestly probably try to get rid of both of them.
Yeah.
You know, again, you want to talk about cap space and things like that. Our friends at Cap Friendly right now have them at like 5.9 million is their projected cap space. Okay. Let's say, and that's with the cap going up $1 million. I think we can bank on it going up a minimum of 3. So you got 7.9 million. If you can shed CC and Yamo, 7.9 turns into 10.9, turns into 13.4 or something like that is what we're sitting at. Okay, Bouchard will eat 5 on his bridge. Now you're down to 8. McLeod will take, let's say, 2. You're down to 6. $6 million to fill those 2 spots. Is that a pipe dream? Is that doable? You have to sign some other guys, I know. So now it's actually it's $4 million to fill those 2 spots. Yeah, that's tough. Can you get? They are in a situation that they would be.
Yeah, I think out of the two of them, though, I think Yamo's the one for me that you kind of got to move on from.
Because I think you can try replace that for like $1.5 million to $2 million.
I think so too. Like we spoke about that thing earlier on in the year where you have players who have played so many games or whatever. Like if you can get the 3 guys who are available were Connor Brown, Max Pacioretty, and Carl Hagelin with a 3.
With that injury, and basically the reason you're bringing them up is they're eligible to be signed to bonus laden deals where the cap is low this year, and if they score X amount of goals, play X amount of games, whatever you negotiate with them, the cap bonus will push to next year.
I think you got to try and weasel your way into one of those deals, and
I think you got to get Connor Brown. I think he's the guy.
You have to, and he could just be a very good replacement for Yamo on the right side. For me, like CC is such an interesting one because he's really a tale of 2 stories. Year 1, he was very good, very reliable. Year 2, not very reliable, almost a complete opposite. And I think
a detriment at times.
Yes, you really have to get away from that Nurse and CC pairing, I think, in one way or another. So I'm not sure how they really manage that. But if I had to pick one, I think Yamo's got to go because you need more impactful players in your top 6.
Yeah, totally. I wonder, again, like finding value deals is going to be important for this team, right? Like we talk about Ryan and Janmark. I really think there's a chance Derek Ryan comes back for like $950K. I think you're going to have Dylan Holloway play on his ELC all next year. I think you're going to hopefully try to get one of Bourgault or Lavoie in this lineup on a consistent basis, and that's going to help as well. I don't know if Klim Kostin comes back for $1.2 million or if he says not worth it, I'll go back home. That's something that could definitely happen. It'll be interesting to see how they fill out the bottom parts of this roster because how you do that will depend on how comfortable you are moving Yamo. Because it would be a win to go Yamo out, Connor Brown in on a $2 million contract. You save $1 million and you get a better player.
Yeah, and then you can
bonus it. If he scores 25 goals, whatever, it's a 1-year deal. He's betting on himself coming off an injury, gets to play with McDavid again, blah, blah, blah. The story all makes sense.
Yeah, it does all line up quite well. And Lavoie's a right winger too. So even if it isn't Connor Brown, maybe Lavoie can take some spot there too.
Yeah. So I think the reason to be optimistic, like there's room for improvement, but the major pieces are back. And I think that'd be my answer to the Sherwood Ford Giant offseason question for the day of why should we be optimistic for next season. Tyler Mulick is in. He says, go get Susie. We're going to be we're going to talk about potential offseason moves so much, but finding version 2 of Brett Kulak, right? A good veteran. I mean, in a way, you're almost looking for version 2 of year 1 Cody Ceci, which I know is a mouthful and is like a lot to say, but like if you can find a better version of Ceci for $3 million, you do it. what team is then going to take Cody Ceci off your hands if there's a better version of Cody Ceci out there for $3 million? You know, like I think it'll be tougher than we think to move a guy like Ceci.
Yeah, because you're selling him at a low, first
Yep.
of all. So like teams aren't going to want to do that. And it's not like his biggest attributes is something that scream out at you, right? Like there's a lot of players kind of like him, like you said,
Yep.
right? So yeah, he's going to be a difficult one. At least Yamo has that. Still only 24. Like contract isn't brutal. It's not going to put you in any kind of cap hell. So yeah, it's going to be tough to move on from CC. I got a feeling we'll see him back in next year.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. A lot of people are saying move McLeod. I'm not sure why you would do that. Again,
McLeod?
I think that's a good bottom six guy who you have under team control who won't cost you a lot. Like he didn't have a great year. That's going to bring down his contract.
He's good in the playoffs.
Yeah, I liked him in the playoffs. I had no issue with that.
That is very strange. I did not expect that name to get tossed into the trade pile.
Yeah.
This show. Is that where we're at right now? It's only been 2 days, people.
I know.
Come on. Save that stuff for August.
Pradneski, as much as I hate to say it, what kind of return do you think the Oilers could get for Nuge? This is the first time he's disappeared. This isn't the first time he's disappeared come playoff time, and playoffs are the only thing that matters. I'm not doing that. Like, come on. The guy committed here, $5.1 million. That contract's just going to keep looking better as the cap keeps going up. I don't know why you would. I don't think there's a team out there that would pay you enough to make it worth it. And almost in a weird way, similar to the CC thing, like how do you replace him for the dollar amount, right? Like how do you get another guy who has, as we saw, 100-point potential for $5 million? You don't. So it'd be dumb to trade him.
And also, he did kind of pick it up in his last 4 games. He did have a 3-point game in game 5 against Vegas, right? 11 points in the playoffs. Like, I know the stats aren't great, and obviously that's just the cover, right? You see 11 points in 12, and you think, oh, not bad. But then when you actually watch the whole thing, like, he wasn't great. But also, like you said, Tyler, how are you replacing that guy? Like, he means so much to the team. They made him a cake, for goodness sakes. Like,
darn right.
How can we move on from that? I just don't see the team getting better moving on from a player like Nugent-Hopkins or Ryan McLeod, I guess, too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're live. Oh, my keys are right there. I didn't drive the truck today. I drove my other car, so careful.
I parked at the golf course and walked over. Yep, I knew this would happen.
It's street sweeping day at the office, so everyone needs to go move their cars. So that is why that just happened. Threw me for a loop.
This is why I plan ahead, Tyler. I knew this would happen.
You parked really far away. I thought we just had to park far away yesterday, but we apparently had to park close or far away again today. It's all week?
I believe so, yeah.
I'm not coming into the office tomorrow. No way. No way. Some talk about buying out Kyler Yamamoto, and Sergeant Battle says why we do that makes no sense. So there is a world where he doesn't have a lot of trade value. Where teams are like, hey, we'll take him, but we're giving you, I think of like the Gurianov for Dodonov swap, right? Where it was like, yeah, we'll take a chance on him, but you're taking our $3 million guy too that we don't want anymore. The reason why a Yamo buyout makes sense is because of his age. And he actually falls into a different buyout calculation than other players do. It's a 1/3 buyout instead of a 2/3 buyout. So that means you would take his $3.1 million cap hit, and you're actually only responsible for like under 1/3 of it. Which means his cap hit next year, if you bought him out, instead of 3.1, you go to 4.3, and the year after it's 5.3 of dead cap. Or sorry, 433K of dead cap space, and then 533K of dead cap space. So if there was a situation where it's like, we cannot get him moved.
Yeah.
Then it's not like insane to think of that. I wouldn't want that in a weird way. I would almost bet on him bouncing back in a sense and giving you 20 to 25 goals again next year. Because I think if he's a guy who can do that, we've seen when he gets hot, 20 goals is a doable thing for him.
He scored 20 goals in the league, right? Yeah. Like, I don't think this will necessarily be a cap dump onto someone. I think it's just based off someone taking a chance and knowing the potential's there. Like, I don't expect a lot in return by any means.
Seattle makes sense as a landing spot for him for so many reasons.
Yeah, he's right around from
there, sellable to the franchise. You know, he seems like a piece who'd fit in well with their kind of core. They love just rolling 4 lines and having these energy buzzsaws. So
yeah. That'd be a good one. I can't really think of any other destinations for him right now. Maybe it's a project we got to go and see if any who we could swap him with, I guess.
Nate is in and says, Nurse should do the team a favor and renegotiate his contract. That's impossible. Not allowed to happen. I did have the idea pop into my head, though, of if the NHL had a clause where players who are in their RFA years can do that. And like the reason why is I think it could benefit young players who sometimes get shackled with the burden of one bad season, like a Yamamoto. Like,
yeah,
what if the Oilers could have gone to Yamamoto this offseason and said, hey, you have 2 more years left of RFA or 3 more years left of RFA eligibility after this. You have 1 year at $3 million. I think we can all agree, Kyler, we're going to have to trade you if you're at $3 million. But hey, what if we renegotiated and scrapped this next year, signed you for the next 3 years at $2 million a year? Let's bring the cap hit down. Let's lower the expectations on you. Let you be an NHLer with us for 3 more years, and then you'll be a UFA.
You'd probably have a lot of players able to stick around in the league too, to be honest, and not just end up bouncing from team to team. Like even you throw a guy like Puljujarvi in there too, to be honest, like a guy who I know is a bit different because he is an RFA this year, but those two players have potential to score 15 to 20 in the league each season. And yeah, you look at Yamamoto for the case, and he's had a tough year with injuries. He's had a very difficult year. He's neck concussion, like basically anything upper body for him was pretty damaged. And I think sometimes that gets thrown away a little bit when we just look at the numbers. But this guy went through a lot. And Evander Kane too, you look at him, like basically what did he play 30 games this season? Like, and he's plagued the whole year. So yeah, tough year for Yamo, but I love that idea. And is it the NBA that does that, I think? Or maybe the NFL?
NFL restructures. A lot of people on the, who is the commenter here? I want to start getting the names right. Eric says McLeod isn't getting hate. He just didn't do much of anything this year. He was banged up.
He had a career,
He had 11 goals in 57 games. That's a 16 goal pace, 23 points in 57 games, and he doesn't play with McDavid and Draisaitl like ever. Like aside from the odd shift here and there, he never had a 10-game run with Draisaitl. He never had a 10-game run with Connor McDavid. And he scored at like a 40-plus point pace. Why are you chomping at the bit to move a guy like that? Who is only going to be like $1.5 million?
In the playoffs, too, he essentially took out Jack Eichel.
He was great against Eichel. He's probably growing into more of a defensively responsible forward right in front of our eyes.
Because he has to be, to be honest. And if you want to get into it, I mean, Draisaitl was the worst forward against Jack Eichel in the playoffs.
Draisaitl line got dominated by Eichel.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Ryan McLeod he's a Jordan Staal that they need in this team, right? I don't think he requires that defensive caliber yet, but who knows? He's still, 23? Like, I'm going to trade that guy? No, thank you.
Adarath is in, says the only right D I can think of are Vatanen, Carlson, Mayfield, and maybe Gudis/Shen. Okay. I don't think Sammy Vatanen's played in the NHL for
I was going to say Sammy Vatanen.
Like, I read that name and I was like, oh my, Sammy Vatanen. That's a pull. I don't think he's I don't think he plays anymore. Can you Google Sammy Vatanen while I read the rest of this comment?
Sammy Vatanen.
Erik Karlsson, ship sailed. You're not doing that. It makes no sense. You're not bringing in a guy who even retained his $7 million plus. Dumb. The other names on there, Scott Mayfield. I love Scott Mayfield. If you can get Scott Mayfield for $3.5 million, that's your CC change. He'll come in here and probably have to play top pairing minutes, and the results won't be that good. But I think he can give you more than Cody CC did. So maybe that's an option. Mayfield also might cost you more than that.
That's a guy that's just been playing on a discount deal forever, right?
Yeah, so he probably wants to get paid.
He's going to want some money. Sammy Vatanen, playing in Geneva, which is in the Swiss League for the last 2 seasons, just over a point per game.
Click on his team. I want to see who else is there.
Linus Ullmark.
Oh, yeah.
Timo Vatanen. Anyone else?
Marc-Antoine Pouliot.
Wow, all the boys.
Bring them all over.
There's also Phil Pula's on the team. Danny Winnick.
Who's in net?
Atu.
Johan Ovitu.
Yeah.
OV2.
Who's in goal? Robert Mayer and I don't know how to say that one.
Point is, Sammy Vatanen's washed.
Yeah.
Not a fit.
Hell of a team, though.
But anyways, I like the Mayfield idea, Adarath. I think that is actually a really good one there. So, yeah.
I know what you're all thinking. How many points did Linus Ullmark have this season?
Adarath says he meant Severson. That actually, yeah. Okay, Severson is actually not a terrible fit either, but I think he's going to be expensive. So, again, the Oilers are they're a little bit hamstrung by the cap. So,
That's such a funny mix-up. Sammy Vatanen hasn't played for New Jersey for 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we know where the Linus Ullmark is. 16 points, 16 goals, and 40 assists this season for Linus Ullmark.
He's a hot guy. Anyways, that's our short giant offseason question. Why should we be optimistic about next year? For me, it's just the lack of roster turnover we're going to see. Yeah. Not a lot of flexibility. That'll hurt them. You can make some flexibility in different ways, though, like we outlined. Maybe a little bit of a young core bubbling up with Holloway, Bourgault, Lavoie. Broberg, it's probably, shit or get off the pot time. That's the only thing that can hop into my brain.
I think they got to roll with Broberg more consistently next season.
How? You're going to play him as a righty?
I think so. I think eventually he's got to get to the point is that you got to give this guy a good run of games.
Yeah.
He is ripe and ready to go. Ken Holland loves to do this to his players, and that's why I'm not really too concerned about it. I think this season has got to be the year where it's like, okay, Broberg, pitter-patter, let's go. It's going to be down to him too.
All right, let's keep moving along on the show today. A new segment we're going to be doing every day. Tomorrow, we're starting with player report cards.
Yes.
So we're going to be going through the entire roster. We're going to give a regular season grade, a playoff grade, and a % chance they're back next season for every player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So the other segment we're doing is we're going to fire up the trade machine every day and give a mock trade every day. And we'll debate who says no. We'll have fun. It's not necessarily going to be an Oilers trade either. And today's isn't, Liam. Firing up the trade machine. And here's what it spit out. Nashville receives William Nylander, and the Toronto Maple Leafs receive UC Saros. Now, the money on this one is interesting. Nylander heading into the final season of a contract that pays him $6.9 million, and then he is a UFA. The Nashville Predators have UC Saros under contract 2 more seasons, $5 million per, then he is a UFA. You look at this deal, Liam, I'll let you go first. Who says no? What changes could maybe have to be made to it?
I think Nashville says no. I think Nashville could get a little bit more out of it. It's so hard to get that stud goaltender over a stud forward, I think is fair to say. And Nylander would probably go into that team and be their best forward. It's
100%.
No disrespect to him, but I think Toronto would have to throw in a little bit more if this was to happen. And also, I just don't know where Nashville are at right now. Are they rebuilding? Because they were 2 points off making the playoffs this season.
Yeah. They've
got a ton of picks, and somehow they came that close. They're in such an interesting spot. They got some bad contracts too with Duchesne and Johansson. Where are they at? I just don't think this works well for Nashville.
Here's why I think it kind of does.
Okay.
Saros only has 2 more years left and he's a UFA. This summer is probably the most value he holds.
That's true.
Because of that great cap hit. Yaroslav Askarov had a 2.4 goals against average and a .910 save percentage. In the play, he had a .269 and a .911 in the regular season. That guy is 21 years old. We've seen young goalies now around the league, Skinner, Ottinger, step in and take on these jobs. If you're Nashville, maybe there's other pieces that have to get thrown into here because Nashville's cap situation, it's interesting. They have projected $15.5 million, so they could take on some money, hypothetically. If you're Nashville and the Leafs go, okay, we'll give you Nylander, you're going to give us Saros, and maybe in there as well, we swap out, you got to take the Matt Murray contract and we give you a future asset or something like that. I think this deal actually makes a lot of sense for both sides. If Toronto's trying to freshen up their core, UC Saros would help you win a lot of hockey games next year, man. And if you're the Preds and you either get Samsonov or you get Murray in the deal, if he's healthy, you bring up Askarov, you pair him with one of those two, you play Askarov 40 games, the other guy 40 games next year. Kevin Lankinen is still there too. He has 1 more year on his deal. They extended him, so maybe they don't even want to vet goalie in this thing. My point is, Saros helps the Leafs win a lot next year. I love Nylander as a player, but you got to give to get. You're not moving Marner or Matthews in this deal. Get a stud number 1 goalie. The Preds get a stud high-end forward who can finally drive offense for them. You talk about you're not sure where they're at. Yossi, McDonough, Barry on the back end. Duchesne, Johansson up front. Those guys aren't getting any younger. So why not bring in a guy like Nylander who can help keep you competitive now, but will also be good 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line when some of your younger pieces are starting to come up as well. I think this makes sense.
I think it's an interesting trend that is coming up in the NHL now is players are getting moved with length on their contract stuff, which I think is the right way to do it, to be honest. Like you just listed off all those guys that Nashville had, and you said none of them are getting any younger. So maybe it does make a little bit more sense than I initially thought. If anything, like Toronto is going to have to go out and find a stud goaltender like that this summer. And it does seem like Saros would be a great option for them. Obviously, it'd be a great option for most teams, but the trade itself doesn't not make sense to me.
Yeah. A lot of people say Nashville says no. Okay, so Toronto maybe adds a little bit onto this. I think that is fair. Usually Saros is a perennial Vezina caliber. And I will say the caveat in this is Nylander signs an extension, I think.
Yes.
I think Nashville does it if Nylander is locked up for the next 8 seasons and is going to stay there. He's a play-driving forward. He's a really damn good hockey player.
90 points this year.
And
right?
I know goalies are hard to get. I get it. Stud goalies like that, very difficult to come by. But they have Askarov coming. So again, sometimes you got to do stuff like this and take a gamble of selling Saros as high as you possibly can, bringing in a high-end talent, Askarov ready to jump up, saves you money too, because you can just run him and Lankinen as your duo next year, spend some money somewhere else. I don't know.
It's just, for both those teams, it's going to be a very interesting offseason. Obviously, the new GM in, what's his name? Barry Trotz in Nashville. So I don't think he's going to want to lose for very long, and I think Nylander would help you do that. The Askarov thing is obviously something they've considered happening when they drafted him, right? Like, so
you don't pick a guy like that if you don't think he can be your starter in a few years.
Exactly. So yeah, I kind of forgot about that because when you said it, I was like, who's going between the pipes for him? But yeah, Askarov is a great goaltender.
The other thing, I know it's working out well right now with Bobrovsky in Florida, but do you want to be the next team to give a goalie a $10 million contract?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think any team wants to be that team.
So then you keep moving on from guys right before they're UFAs.
Yeah, force somebody else to pay the money, right? That you don't want to pay. Yeah, you know what? The more I think about it, the more I'm getting slightly convinced that this wouldn't be as crazy as I initially thought. There would obviously just have to be a few more pieces in there, but the base is on.
Kyle says, I thought this was Oilers Nation, not Leafs Nation. Why are we talking about other teams? Because it's the offseason.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah. I mean, we'll do player grades tomorrow for the Oilers. We'll do, when we fire up the trade machine every day, we'll do a little bit of Oilers stuff in there too. We'll come up with some Oilers trades. You can always drop yours in the chat and we'll see.
But to be honest, there's only so many times you can trade Kylie Yamamoto.
Yeah, I mean, if we did just Oilers trades every day, we'd be like, okay, Carolina gives you a 4th for Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Who says no? Then the next day, Seattle gives you a 4th for Yamamoto, you know? Tyler Mulick, Askarov could have been an Oiler.
Could have been.
Interesting transition to our AMA Travel Out of Town scoreboard and what happened last night. Dallas moves past Seattle. Game-winning goal, Wyatt Johnston. Wyatt Johnston, 2021, first-round pick, taken 22nd overall. Who was taken right before him?
Xavier Bourgault.
Oilers could have had Wyatt Johnston, but they went with Xavier Bourgault, who I don't hate as a prospect.
Nope,
but it's a little weird to look at a guy scoring a big Game 7 goal, scored 24 goals as a rookie this year. Could have had him.
Yeah, he's such an interesting prospect, isn't he? Actually, if anyone wants to go look back, I interviewed Wyatt Johnston. I think it's on the Oilersnation YouTube somewhere.
Or DFO YouTube.
I can't remember which one it's on. I think it's on the Oilersnation YouTube.
Okay.
Go check it out wherever it is. Just Google it. But that draft class, we were kind of looking before the show, and it's going to be a doozy, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you got Owen Power, Luke Hughes has come in, had a good impact on what did he play, 2 or 3 games in the playoffs. Matt Benez is likely first or second in Rookie of the Year. Mason McTavish is going to be a star. Like Dylan Gunther, I know he's not playing right now. Brent Clark, there's a ton of guys, but yeah, the Wyatt Johnston one is it's always a tough pill to swallow, isn't it, when you see a guy have such an impact? But I do believe Bourgault will be good too.
Yeah, it's just getting to that point where he's starting to lose the prospect shine, right? And that's the concern for me.
And he's only been a pro for 1 year.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Connor McDavid speaking at Oilers Media Avails. This via Tony Brar says, quote, it's cup or bust for this group. That's the expectation. Yeah, like listen, Draisaitl had something. He also said cup or bust. He said, we're all here to win, and when you don't, it's disappointing. As a group, we'll talk about it, find the positives, be ready for next year. Like, this is why locker room cleanout day doesn't do a lot for me, because it's not like Connor McDavid's going to come out and be like, Oh, I'm actually really happy with my season. I scored 150 points. I'm going to have 4 trophies at the awards. It's sick.
Yeah, I'm
Like-
excited to lift that heart again.
Yeah, like this is exactly what we thought was coming out, which is why this day doesn't do a ton for me. I'm excited to hear Ken Holland speak a little bit later on, so I guess we'll have that. But anyways, yeah. Tyler Mulick, to be fair, Johnson would have never gotten a chance to score that goal because our front office hates young people. Maybe Steve Stais doesn't, though. That's the point.
That's the thing. Maybe we should be looking at the upcoming free agency class from who have played for the Hamilton Bulldogs in the NHL. this
Steve
season.
Stais' kid.
Hey, he was a great player. Arguably his best move.
Yeah, straight up. That's like not even like tongue in cheek either. Like straight up was probably his best move. Anyways, sticking with the AMA Travel Out of Town scoreboard, we're going to use this segment to talk about some other sports too. Why not?
Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama. The draft lottery in the NBA is tonight.
Mhm.
This dude is a freak. This dude could straight up be the best person to ever play the sport of basketball.
Yeah.
7'4", 8-foot wingspan. Everything I've read and heard about this guy is like he shoots threes, he protects the rim, he's got a great like basketball IQ. Tonight is the NBA's equivalent of not the Bedard lottery, the McDavid lottery.
Yeah, he's going to be a stud. And I mean, you see that kind of, you don't see a lot of guys like that come through very often, do you? Like, I think I saw this thing the other day. The only player bigger than him that has been drafted as high as he could is Yao Ming.
Huh.
Who, the problem with those guys is always like, how are the knees going to hold up and all that kind of stuff? But I mean, if you get him, like, you're not disappointed about it. And what are the Raptors? 1% chance of winning him. So
I think I heard,
see.
Raps are 1%. I think it was Adrian Wojnarowski who said the franchise that gets him, their franchise valuation instantly goes up $250 million. Like the second you win the lottery, you're, as an owner, you get an extra $250 million on your valuation. Jays Yankees tonight. Kevin Gausman going to go. Alek Manoah brutal again yesterday. That's a major concern. If you want to hear more Jays talk, BJN Radio drops after every Jays series. And sticking with hockey. Oh, here, flash this up. Like,
It's terrifying.
dude, he's 7'4" and can shoot threes. That's bananas.
I'm 5'11" and can't shoot a layup. So yeah, that's pretty good on his end of things. That's 7'4" and he can shoot threes. That is just a crazy little thing, isn't it?
Go Google it or YouTube it. There's a video or a clip of him. He shoots a three and like the camera pans to the hoop, right? And it hits the rim, bounces up, and he just like takes 2 strides in and like grabs the ball and puts it in. Like grabs his own rebound on a missed three and just like drops it in. It's insane.
Not many guys can do that one. Also, next question. Is Aaron Judge a cheater?
Yes.
Confirmed.
So if you haven't seen this, basically Aaron Judge yesterday before he hit a home run was seen glancing at the dugout out of the side of his eyes and then murders the next pitch he sees. So are the Yankees hacking into pitch comms and cheating or stealing signs? I see no reason to think they're not.
I was reading the comments on it, and I like the one is like, to be fair, that was a hanging whatever it was right over the plate. And
Sure.
He smashed it out. But hey, he said today, Aaron Judge said that his teammates were chirping from the bench and he thought it was too much, so he kept looking. It's like, well, you could just like look between bats and yell at them, be like,
He's
hey,
full of shit.
Up. Yes, essentially, yes.
Totally. Yeah. Tyler Mulick, Aaron Judge looking at the bench top, and yeah, we're getting to it. I know the chat's a little behind today. Also in sports news tonight, 8:00 Arizona time, which is either 10 or 11 our time, depending on daylight savings. I never know what time it is there anymore. The referendum's going to come down, and the people of Tempe are going to decide if the Coyotes are getting their new arena. So basically, there's kind of 3 ways this can go. Referendum comes through, Yotes get their new arena, they're staying in Tempe for good. They'll play 3-4 more years in ASU and then move to their new barn as promised. Referendum does not go their way, but the NHL, as Elliot Friedman's kind of reported, they could go to the Suns' new owner and say, hey, it's going to take redoing your current arena, because there is an arena the Suns play out of that is nice and in a good spot. They just never want to share it with the Yotes. They could go to the new Suns owner, who might be more open to this, and say, hey, redo your arena, invest in this, and it'll be worth it for you in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, them being downtown would help massively.
The third option is, and apparently the NHL behind the scenes might be ready to do this, they go.
Yeah.
Gary Bettman gives up on his dream of hockey in the desert, and they say, you can't play in in ASU for 6 more seasons. It's embarrassing. We're going to Houston, where Tillman Furtada and that group are apparently ready to roll. You can go to Kansas City. You can go to Salt Lake City.
Where would you want him to go?
Houston. Big TV market, big sports market. I think Houston's the easy choice.
Yeah, I think Houston's the easy choice. I would be curious to see a team in Kansas.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if it would work.
You want to keep it's Central Division, so I guess Kansas City would still work.
And also, do you want that project again of trying to build a market? Like in Seattle, at least they had the Thunderbirds. I know Vegas was kind of easy to build on, but the thing is, everybody loves to go to Vegas, so it was kind of always going to work in one way or another. Yeah, with Kansas, it just feels like a massive project again, and I just don't know if the NHL wants a headache when they can just go to Houston.
Sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so those are the sports headlines you're going to be keeping an eye on today. Shout out to AMA Travel, amatravel.ca/dreams. I'm using them to go check out the Blue Jays in Seattle. Booked all my hotels along the way. Lots of fun. Anyways, Liam, we're going to have another Short Ford Giant question tomorrow.
Yep.
We are going to have our first player report cards. We're going to fire up the trade machine tomorrow on a Wednesday edition of Oilers Nation Every Day. As always, live from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out online, sportscloset.ca. 3 locations in Edmonton as well. Shout out to Betway, 19+, play responsibly. Betting on a Jays bounce back tonight, by the way. We'll dig into some Stanley Cup odds tomorrow, too. We're still 2 days away from the conference finals getting going. What the hell's up with that?
I know.
NHL scheduling, am I right?
I'm just reading the quotes.
Oh, are there more coming up?
McDavid said Woodcroft is the best coach he's ever played under.
Oh, that's
shocking.
Heartwarming.
Imagine if he said second best. I just loved it when Dave Tippett was here.
Leon says he might head to the Worlds and represent Germany.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. McDavid on whether the team improved said it's progress. Maybe doesn't feel like it today, but I think it's progress. We're a better team than we were last year. We've got basically everybody coming back. It's just more experiences, and that's all positive. Leon Draisaitl also said, we want to win here. There's nowhere else we want to win.
Woo!
So there you go. We'll end the show on a positive note. Thanks for tuning in today, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow, noon Mountain Time. Chat with you then.